At Thanksgiving dinner, my mom looked right at me and said, "Your brother just bought a beautiful house. When are you finally going to settle down?" I didn't even hesitate. I told her, "Oh, I already have. I just didn't invite anyone who doubts me." Her face flushed instantly, bright red, and the whole table went quiet as everyone turned to look at me. To give you some context, I'm 31 now, and honestly, ever since I can remember, my entire life has been front row seats to my family treating my older brother, let's call him Travis, he's 36, like he could do no wrong. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Growing up, it was always the same story. Travis made the football team. Travis got straight A's again. Meanwhile, I'd come home with something like second place in a statewide science competition, and my mom would just smile and say, "That's nice, honey, but did you hear what your brother did?" Our dad left when I was 4 years old. Travis was 9 at the time, and I swear, from that moment on, my mom seemed to pour all her hopes and expectations into him. In her eyes, he became the man of the house. And me? I was just there. The other kid. The daughter. The afterthought that didn't quite matter as much. There were times she'd literally move my dance recitals around if they clashed with one of Travis's football games. She even missed my high school graduation because Travis had a job interview that day, and she wanted to drive him there and wait outside for him. I wish I was making that up, but I'm not. As we got older, the favoritism didn't just stay the same, it got worse. Travis went off to college, and my mom helped cover his tuition, even though his grades were nothing special. Meanwhile, I had to take out loans and juggle 2 jobs just to get through school, because apparently, girls don't need as much help. When Travis graduated and landed some basic entry-level job, my mom threw him this huge party and invited everyone. When I graduated with honors, I got a card. The only person who ever seemed to notice how messed up all of this was my cousin, let's call her Paige. After those big family dinners where everyone celebrated Travis like he'd just changed the world, she'd come sit with me while I tried to hold it together. "Your mom has no idea what she's missing," she'd tell me. And yeah, that meant something, but not enough to make it hurt any less when I watched my entire family act like Travis deserved a Nobel Prize for pulling off a C+ average and getting hired by his friend's dad. I moved out when I was 24, and after that, I pretty much stopped sharing anything real about my life with them. What was the point? Somehow, every conversation would circle right back to Travis anyway. If I mentioned a promotion, it turned into, "That's nice. Travis is thinking about applying for something new too." If I talked about a vacation, suddenly it was, "Oh, Travis has been working so hard, he hasn't had a break in months. Poor thing." So eventually, I just stopped trying. I'd still show up for holidays, sit through the usual small talk, give vague answers, and then steer the conversation somewhere else as fast as I could. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I was working my ass off at my tech job, climbing the ladder, stacking promotions, investing smart, and quietly building a life I actually felt proud of. I'd always had a knack for computers, even if nobody in my family ever noticed or cared. Back in high school, I basically taught myself how to code while Travis was out being social, my mom's words, not mine. I went into college as a computer science major, and even while working 2 jobs to support myself, I still managed to graduate at the top of my class. Right after that, I landed a job at a startup. The salary wasn't amazing at first, but they offered stock options, which I knew could turn into something bigger down the line. I lived cheap, like really cheap. I had 3 roommates in a cramped apartment, packed my lunch every day, barely went out, and put every extra dollar toward paying off my student loans or investing. My mom would call once in a while, but every conversation followed the exact same script. She'd ask, "How are you, honey?" I'd say, "I'm good. Work's going well." And she'd respond, "That's nice, did I tell you about Travis's new promotion?" And just like that, the next 40 minutes would be all about him. Every single time. Like clockwork. There's one Thanksgiving from about 3 years ago that I still can't forget. I had just been promoted to team lead at work, my first real management role, and I was genuinely proud of myself. I was the youngest team lead in the company's history, and for once, I thought maybe this was something my mom would actually recognize. So I went to her place for dinner, feeling, I don't know, hopeful, I guess. Travis was there too, along with whatever girlfriend he had at the time, not Lauren, some other girl whose name I can't even remember now. At the table, my mom asked her usual question, "So how are things, Melanie?" And instead of brushing it off like I normally would, I decided to actually tell her. "I got promoted to team lead last week," I said, trying not to sound too excited. "I'm managing a team of 6 developers now." She gave a quick nod, barely even looking at me. "That's nice, dear." Then she immediately turned to Travis. "Why don't you tell everyone about that client you landed?" And just like that, the spotlight shifted again. Now it was all about Travis's job, selling insurance or whatever he was doing at the time, while everyone leaned in like he'd just closed some massive deal. Meanwhile, I just sat there, pushing food around my plate, listening to everyone praise him for convincing some local business owner to switch providers. Paige, sitting next to me, reached under the table and squeezed my hand. She didn't say anything, but she didn't need to. She got it. She always did. After dinner, I was in the kitchen helping clean up when my Aunt Cynthia cornered me. "So, Melanie," she said, lowering her voice like she was about to drop some big insight, "any special man in your life yet?" I shook my head. "No, not right now. I'm really focused on my career." She clicked her tongue and leaned in closer. "Don't wait too long, sweetie. Men don't like women who are too career-driven. Look at your brother, he already has a girlfriend, and he's not even settled yet." I just smiled and kept scrubbing the gravy boat, putting a little more force into it than necessary. There was no point explaining that I had zero interest in men who'd feel threatened by my ambition. Later that night, as I was heading out, my mom hugged me by the door. "It was good to see you, honey. You should come by more often." "I've been really busy with work," I told her. "Especially with the promotion and everything." She paused for a second, like it took her a moment to remember what I was talking about. Then she smiled. "Oh, right. Your little promotion. That's wonderful, dear. Maybe one day you'll be as successful as your brother." I don't think she even realized how that sounded. To her, it wasn't an insult, it was just reality. In her mind, Travis was the successful one. And I wasn't. No matter what the facts actually were. That night, driving home, something in me just snapped into place. I decided I was done chasing their approval. Done hoping they'd finally see me. Done putting myself in a position to be disappointed over and over again. From that moment on, I started living for myself, and only myself. And honestly, that's when everything started to click. The startup I worked for took off. We secured back-to-back funding rounds, the user base kept growing, and as my team expanded, I got promoted again, this time to development director. I was working crazy hours, but I loved it. Every second of it. Meanwhile, Travis kept bouncing from one job to another, insurance, real estate, some vague marketing role, never staying anywhere longer than a year. But according to my mom, every move he made was bold and strategic. In her eyes, it just proved he was too talented to stay in one place. Then last summer, my mom invited the whole family over for a cookout to celebrate Travis's big news. I seriously considered skipping it. But Paige practically begged me to come. She hates those family gatherings just as much as I do. "Please, Melanie," she texted me. "If I have to sit through Aunt Cynthia asking why I'm still not married one more time without backup, I'm gonna lose it." So I went. And the second I walked into my mom's backyard, I was hit with a scene so over the top, it almost felt like a joke. There were balloons everywhere. A big banner stretched across the patio that read, "Congratulations, Travis," and sitting on the picnic table was this elaborate cake shaped like a house. My mom spotted me the second I walked in and rushed over, practically vibrating with excitement. "Melanie, you made it. Isn't this amazing? Your brother has such big news." "Yeah, super exciting," I said, glancing around at all the decorations. "So what exactly are we celebrating?" Her smile somehow got even wider. "You'll have to wait for the announcement. Travis wants to share it himself." I grabbed a soda from the cooler and made my way over to Paige, who was tucked into a corner of the yard, looking like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. "Just kill me now," she muttered as I walked up. "My aunt already asked if I've tried dating apps since that's how young people meet now. And one of the uncles told me my biological clock is ticking." I let out a quiet laugh. Family gatherings, always such a good time. We stood there together, watching more relatives show up, and like always, they all made a beeline straight for Travis and his girlfriend, Lauren, who were basically holding court by the grill. Travis had that same smug expression on his face, the one I've known my whole life, the look that says he thinks he's the most important person in the room. Eventually, once everyone had arrived, my mom tapped her glass with a fork to get everyone's attention. "Everyone," she announced, beaming. "I'm so proud to share that Travis has been pre-approved for a mortgage." There was a pause, like she'd just delivered groundbreaking news. "He's buying his first home." They were hyping him up like he'd just invented some revolutionary way to buy property without needing money. My Aunt Cynthia actually looked like she was about to cry. Over a mortgage pre-approval. I wish I was joking. Then my mom added, "And it's in Oakwood Heights. 4 bedrooms. A finished basement." And suddenly everyone was gasping and clapping like this was some huge life achievement. Paige leaned in closer to me. "Is it just me, or is this a really weird thing to throw a party for?" "It's not just you," I whispered back. A few minutes later, my Uncle Brandon spotted me standing off to the side and wandered over. "So, Melanie," he said, "you still renting that little apartment downtown?" I just smiled politely. "Yep. Still there." He chuckled and gave my shoulder a pat. "Well, maybe one day you'll catch up to your brother. Not everyone hits success right away." I took a slow sip of my drink and walked off before I said something I'd regret. Later on, while I was helping clean up, I overheard my mom and Travis talking quietly in the kitchen. "The down payment's gonna be tight," Travis was saying. "I might need to borrow more than we talked about." My mom let out a tired sigh. "Travis, I already gave you $18,000. That's almost everything I had saved." I know," he said quickly. "But this house is perfect, and Lauren really wants it. We could always open another credit card for the rest." I slipped out before they noticed I was there. But that conversation stuck with me. For weeks. On the drive home that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My mom had given him $18,000. $18,000. That wasn't spare money, that was her retirement savings. Money she couldn't really afford to just hand over. And the way Travis casually mentioned getting another credit card, something about it didn't sit right with me. It sounded like this wasn't his first one, or even his second. Meanwhile, when I moved into my apartment, my mom hadn't offered me a single dollar. If anything, she seemed irritated when I asked if I could temporarily store a few boxes in her garage while I got settled. The more I thought about it, the more it pissed me off. Not just the favoritism, I was used to that, but the fact that Travis seemed to be straight up taking advantage of her. She wasn't wealthy. Not even close. She worked as an administrative assistant at a dental office, still lived in the same modest house we grew up in, and drove a car that was at least 10 years old. That $18,000 probably took her years to save. And Travis was already talking about how to squeeze more out of her. The next day, I started paying closer attention. Travis had been careless for years, leaving paperwork out, talking too openly when he thought no one was listening, bragging one minute and panicking the next. Piece by piece, the picture started coming together, and it wasn't good. What I found honestly shocked me. He had 5 credit cards, all basically maxed out. His credit score was terrible. He'd missed multiple payments on his car loan. He'd applied for several new lines of credit recently, most of which had been denied. In short, he was a financial mess. And now he was about to take on a mortgage? I thought about telling my mom, warning her, but I already knew how that would go. In her world, Travis could do no wrong. And anything I said would just be brushed off as jealousy or bitterness. So I kept it to myself. Instead, I started calling her more often, just checking in casually, seeing how she was doing. Not that it changed much. Every conversation still ended up being about Travis and his amazing new house. What none of them knew, though, was what had actually been going on in my life. I'd been crushing it at work for years. I started as a junior developer, worked my way into leadership, and by the time the startup was acquired last year, I was in a senior executive role. Those stock options I got early on? Yeah, they turned into a ridiculous amount of money after the acquisition. On top of that, I'd been investing carefully since my early 20s, mostly sticking to long-term habits that paid off over time. But I never showed any of it off. I still lived in my same downtown apartment. Still drove a reliable, nothing special car. Still packed my lunch most days. But behind the scenes, I had a solid, and growing, financial cushion. Then about 8 months ago, I came across this house. I wasn't even looking to buy, honestly. I was perfectly fine staying in my apartment. But a coworker mentioned that their neighbor was trying to sell privately, no agents, no fees, and wanted a quick, simple deal. Out of curiosity, I went to check it out. And the second I saw it, I was done. 4,750 square feet. A stunning kitchen with floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over this beautiful wooded area. A dedicated office space that was perfect for remote work. Enough bedrooms for a guest room, a gym, whatever I wanted. The property sat on 3 acres, with a small stream running through the back. There was this wraparound deck with stairs leading down to a fire pit area, already set up with comfortable outdoor furniture. Inside, the living room had these high vaulted ceilings with exposed wooden beams, a massive stone fireplace, and hardwood floors everywhere. The kitchen had just been renovated, top-of-the-line appliances, a huge island, custom cabinets. The primary suite was on the main floor, with a bathroom that had a soaking tub right under a window overlooking the woods. Upstairs, there were 3 more bedrooms and 2 additional bathrooms. It wasn't cheap. Not even close. But the difference was, I actually had the money. Not pre-approved for a mortgage money. I mean, I could buy it outright. So I made an offer, paid in cash, and moved in 2 months later. That first night, I sat out on the deck, listening to the stream and looking out at the trees, and I just felt this deep, overwhelming sense of peace. This was mine. I built this life on my own. No help. No handouts. Did I tell my family? Nope. Not a single word. Anytime they asked how I was doing, I'd just shrug and say, same old, then move the conversation somewhere else. My mom never pressed for more. She never cared enough about my life to ask real follow-up questions anyway. The only person who knew the truth was Paige. She helped me move, and when she saw the house for the first time, she nearly teared up. "Melanie, this place is unbelievable," she said, slowly turning in a circle in my kitchen. "I seriously can't believe you pulled this off all by yourself." I just smiled at her. "Believe it. And you haven't even seen the back deck yet." I led her outside, and the second she took in the view, she let out this huge gasp. "Your family is going to absolutely lose it when they see this." I just shrugged. "They're not going to see it. I'm not telling them." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "What? Why not?" This would finally shut everybody up about Travis being the successful one. "That's exactly why," I told her. "I'm done trying to prove anything to them. I don't need their validation anymore." She gave a slow nod. "Yeah. I get it. But wow, I'd still love to see their faces if they ever found out." "Maybe someday," I said. "Just not today." Over the next several months, I settled into my new house and started living exactly the way I wanted. I got my home office set up, joined a local hiking group, planted a vegetable garden, and even adopted a dog from the shelter. He was the scruffy little mutt, and I named him Toby. Before long, he was basically my best friend. And for the first time in a long time, I was happy. Not fake happy. Not trying to prove something happy. I mean genuinely, deeply happy. And the best part was, I didn't need my family's approval to feel that way. Then Thanksgiving came around this year, and my mom sent a message in the family group chat, "Travis and Lauren's house is finally ready. They've moved in, and they're hosting Thanksgiving this year. Can't wait for everyone to see their beautiful new home." At first, I almost skipped it. But then I realized I hadn't seen any of them in months, and something in me just kind of snapped. I decided it was finally time to stop hiding my success. That Thanksgiving morning, I took Toby on a long walk around my property and thought about what I was about to do. Part of me wondered if I should just let it go, keep everything to myself and avoid the drama, same as always. But another part of me, the stronger part, was done being invisible. Done watching Travis get praised for things I'd done better. Done carrying around the weight of my mom's constant disappointment. "What do you think, Toby?" I asked him as we headed back toward the house. "Should I finally stand up for myself?" He wagged his tail and barked once, which I decided counted as a yes. I made sure he had plenty of food, water, and toys before I left, then I changed into something simple but nice. Dark jeans, a soft cashmere sweater, and a pair of boots I'd bought for myself after the acquisition. Nothing flashy, nothing overdone, but definitely a step up from the cheap Walmart clothes I used to wear to family events. I drove over in my same old car. I could have bought something nicer a long time ago, but I never really saw the point. Flashy stuff never mattered much to me. When I pulled up to Travis's place, I had to admit, it looked nice. It was your standard new-build house in one of those neighborhoods where every home looks like a slightly altered copy of the one next to it, but still, it was nice. As I walked up to the front door, I could already hear people laughing and talking inside. I took a deep breath, reminded myself I had nothing to prove to any of them, and rang the bell. Lauren answered the door wearing an apron that said hostess with the mostest across the front. "Melanie. You made it," she said, throwing her arms around me before I could react. We'd met maybe 3 times before that, but apparently we were hugging now. "Thanks for inviting me," I said, handing her a small gift box filled with gourmet tea and handmade honey sticks I'd picked up at a mountain market during a weekend trip. It was one of those gifts that felt understated but nice, kind of luxurious without trying too hard. "Oh, thanks," she said, glancing at the label without really reading it. "Come in. Everyone's already here." Inside, Travis was doing a full guided house tour like he was hosting his own HGTV special. "And here's the kitchen," he said dramatically. Lauren picked out all the finishes herself. "And next summer, we're thinking about putting a pool in the backyard." My mom was right behind him, practically glowing with pride and adding commentary every few seconds. "Isn't the primary bedroom gorgeous?" she kept saying. "And look at these countertops." I smiled politely and nodded when appropriate, then helped Lauren carry food into the dining room. I'd barely spent any real time with her before that day, but she seemed fine. Not awful, not rude, just totally absorbed into Travis's orbit. A few minutes later, Paige spotted me and rushed over, immediately dragging me into a corner of the living room. "You came," she said. "I honestly wasn't sure you would. Couldn't miss seeing the famous house, right?" I said with a slight smile. She rolled her eyes. "It's been non-stop house talk since I walked in. Look at our crown molding. Look at our recessed lighting. I'm about 2 minutes away from recessing myself right out the front door." I laughed. "How long have you been here?" "Too long," she groaned. Aunt Cynthia cornered me the second I stepped inside to tell me about her friend's daughter, who met a guy on a dating app and now has twins. Apparently that was supposed to inspire me. "At least she's consistent," I said. Paige narrowed her eyes and studied me for a second. "You seem different today." "Like? I don't know. Almost like you're enjoying this." I shrugged. "Let's just say I'm ready for whatever happens." She looked interested, but before she could ask what I meant, my mom spotted us and came hurrying over. "Melanie. There you are," she said brightly. "Isn't Travis's house just beautiful? So grown up, don't you think?" "It's very nice," I said evenly. "He picked out all the paint colors himself," she added, like that was some kind of major accomplishment. "And just wait until you see the basement. They're turning it into a home theater." "Sounds great," I said. "How have you been, Mom?" "Oh, busy helping them get settled," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "You know how it is with a new house. There's so much to do. But it's all worth it. I'm just so proud of him." I nodded and kept my mouth shut. It wasn't time yet. Not yet. When we finally all sat down to eat, Travis naturally took the head of the table, with Mom seated on one side of him and Lauren on the other. I ended up between Paige and Aunt Cynthia, which was exactly as exhausting as it sounds. Aunt Cynthia didn't waste any time. "So, Melanie," she said, "any special someone yet? You know, you're not getting any younger." I just shrugged. "I'm focused on my career right now." Before I could say anything else, Mom jumped in. "Melanie's always been so independent," she said. "Not everyone is ready to settle down and build a life the way Travis and Lauren have." Travis gave this smug little smile. "Speaking of building a life," he said, "we're thinking about starting to try for a baby next year. We've got plenty of room now." That got the reaction he wanted, more smiles, more congratulations, more applause. My mom actually wiped away a tear. I can't believe my baby boy is all grown up, she said, squeezing his arm. A beautiful home. A wonderful job. Thinking about starting a family. Travis, you've done everything right. Then she turned and looked at me. That look. The one she's always given me. That mix of disappointment and pity, like I've somehow failed at life without even realizing it. Melanie, honey, she said, when are you finally going to settle down? Don't you want what your brother has? The whole table went quiet. Everybody looked at me, waiting for the usual version of me, the one who dodged the question, laughed it off, or changed the subject. Instead, I picked up my water glass and took a slow sip, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. Then I set the glass down carefully and said, "Oh, I already did. I just didn't invite anyone who doubts me." Silence. Instant, heavy silence. My mom's fork actually hit her plate with a clatter. Aunt Cynthia's jaw dropped open. And Travis, his smug expression froze in place like somebody had paused him. What? My mom finally managed to say. I settled down, I repeated, cutting into my turkey like this was no big deal. About 8 months ago. What do you mean? She asked, looking back and forth between me and Travis. You never told us anything about. Exactly, I cut in. I bought a house. I moved in. I built a life for myself. I just didn't feel the need to announce it to people who've never cared about my accomplishments. Travis tried to recover by forcing out this awkward little laugh. Come on, Melanie, he said. Buying a house is a pretty big deal. Kinda strange to keep something like that a secret, don't you think, he added. I met his gaze without blinking. Not really. It's not like any of you ever bothered to ask. That hit harder than anything else I'd said so far. My mom shifted uncomfortably in her chair, and Travis's fake smile started to crack at the edges. Well, he said after a tense pause, trying to recover. What kind of place are we talking about? A condo downtown or something? I could see exactly what he was doing, trying to downplay it before he even knew the details. Classic Travis. No, I said calmly. It's a house. I paused just long enough before adding, actually, it's bigger than this one. You could have heard a pin drop. Travis's smile vanished completely, and he tightened his grip on his knife so much his knuckles went white. Bigger? Aunt Cynthia leaned forward. How big are we talking, Melanie? I leaned back in my chair, totally relaxed. A little over 4,750 square feet. And it sits on 3 acres. Travis's jaw literally dropped. My mom let out a quiet gasp. But honey, she said, her voice strained. Don't you think that's a bit much for someone living alone? And there it was, her way of turning my success into a problem. Not really, I replied evenly. I mean, I didn't take out a mortgage or anything, so it's not like it's a financial burden. The reaction was instant. Travis nearly choked on his drink. My mom's eyes went wide. You paid cash for a house like that, she stammered. I gave a small shrug. Yeah. I didn't see the point in taking on debt if I didn't have to. In less than 5 seconds, Travis went from smug to completely pale. I turned toward him. So how's your mortgage going, Travis? What did you put down, 5%? Maybe less? His jaw tightened so hard I could practically hear his teeth grinding. My mom jumped in quickly, clearly trying to save him. Well, Travis's home is absolutely beautiful, she said. And it's in such a great neighborhood. A very smart investment. Travis nodded stiffly. Yeah. Real estate is all about location. The schools here are top-rated, perfect for when we have kids. Aunt Cynthia, completely oblivious to the tension in the room, chimed in. Wait, so, Melanie, you actually own your house outright? No mortgage at all? That's right, I said. Paid in full at closing. The expressions around the table ranged from impressed to confused to stunned. Travis, though? He just looked furious. You know, I said calmly, it's funny how much people assume about your life when they never actually ask you anything. My mom tried to brush it off with a nervous laugh. Oh, Melanie, come on. It's not like we ignore you. I raised an eyebrow. Really? When was the last time you asked me about my job? Or my finances? Or my plans for the future? No one answered. You didn't ask, I continued, because you never thought you needed to. You already decided Travis was the only one worth paying attention to. Travis slammed his hand down on the table. Seriously, Melanie? We get it. You bought a house. Congratulations. What, do you want us to throw you a parade or something? I looked at him steadily. No. But maybe you should consider getting some financial advice before acting like you've got everything figured out. His eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said, leaning forward slightly, that while you've been pretending to have it all together, you're actually drowning in debt. Credit card debt. A lot of it. The color drained from his face. The entire table went silent. Melanie, my mom said slowly, her voice tight. What are you talking about? I didn't take my eyes off Travis. Did you tell her? I asked. Did you tell Mom that you're barely keeping up with your mortgage? That you maxed out 3 credit cards just to furnish this place? That you've been borrowing money from anyone you can for the down payment? His face turned bright red, pure rage. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? I said calmly. You're not nearly as hard to read as you think, Travis. You've been slipping for a while, and anybody paying attention could see it. I held his gaze. You're buried in debt, Travis. Your cards are maxed out, you're stretched way too thin, and this house is hanging on by a thread. My mom turned to him, pale as a sheet. Travis, is that true? For once in his life, he had nothing to say. I looked back at him. How much did you take from Mom? Was it just the $18,000 I overheard at the cookout? Or did you go back for more after that? My mom's head snapped toward me. You heard that? I overheard it, I said. At the party celebrating his mortgage pre-approval. You know, the one that got a bigger celebration than my college graduation. She actually looked ashamed. Travis, on the other hand, looked like he was about to explode. You had no right, he hissed. No right to dig into my finances. And you had no right, I fired back, to take advantage of Mom. To use her retirement savings for a house you can't afford. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mom looked between us, like the image of her perfect family was cracking right in front of her. Finally, she looked at me. How did you do it? She asked quietly. How did you afford a house like that? I took a slow breath. I worked for it, I said. I got promoted 5 times in 6 years. I'm the CTO of my company now. When we got acquired last year, my stock options alone were worth over $1 million. I paused. I invested smart. And I didn't waste money trying to impress people who never cared. Travis shot up from his chair so fast it toppled over behind him. You think you're better than me? He snapped. You think you've won something here? I stayed seated, completely calm. I don't think I've won anything, I said. I just stopped playing a game that was rigged against me from the start. Then I looked around the table, at all their stunned faces. And finally, at my mom, who couldn't even meet my eyes. For years, I said, I've watched all of you praise everything Travis does while treating me like I don't matter. You made it seem like I was falling behind in life, when the truth is, I've been ahead this whole time. I stood up and grabbed my coat. The saddest part, I said, looking straight at my mom, is that you'll never really know what I've accomplished, because you never cared enough to ask. I let that sit for a second. You were so focused on your golden boy, you completely missed that your daughter was the one actually succeeding. My mom started crying. Travis was shaking with anger. The rest of the family just sat there, frozen. I walked to the door, then paused and turned back one last time. Next time you want to know about my life, I said, try actually listening when I answer. And with that, I stepped out into the cold November air, got into my car, and drove back to my house. My house. Fully paid off. For the first time in my life. I didn't feel invisible. I felt untouchable. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I was sitting out on my back deck with Toby, watching the sun set behind the trees. That's when Paige texted me. Mom says Aunt Cynthia is still talking about your mic drop moment at Thanksgiving. Pretty sure you're officially a family legend now. I smiled and typed back, how's your mom doing? Good. She wants to know when she can come see your place, Paige texted next. I might have shown her a few pictures. I let out a small laugh. Tell her she's welcome anytime, I replied. And obviously, you are too. Just make sure she understands that invitation doesn't extend to certain other people. Paige answered almost instantly. Got it. Things are still kind of blowing up over here anyway. I'll fill you in when I see you. The truth is, I don't regret exposing Travis. Not even a little. He'd been lying, manipulating, and draining our mom for years, taking her retirement savings while she kept enabling him like he could do no wrong. At some point, somebody had to pull the curtain back and show what was really going on. My phone started ringing. It was my mom. 5th time she'd called since Thanksgiving. I hadn't answered once. Part of me was curious what she wanted to say, sure, but I wasn't exactly in a hurry to hear it. After thinking about it for a second, I declined the call and flipped my phone face down on the table. About 10 minutes later, a text came through. Melanie, please. We need to talk. Travis is having some financial issues, and I'm trying to help him figure things out. Maybe you could give him some advice. He's still your brother. I just stared at the message, feeling that same familiar frustration build in my chest. Of course. This wasn't about me. Not really. Not about what I said, or how I felt. It was about Travis. It's always about Travis. I started typing. Let me get this straight, I wrote. After I told you I bought a house in cash that's larger than Travis's, after I explained how you've ignored my accomplishments my entire life, your response is to ask me to help him with his financial problems? I paused for a second, then added. Are you serious right now? The 3 dots popped up as she started typing, then disappeared, then came back again. Finally, her message came through. Don't be like that, Melanie. Family helps family. You've always been so independent. Travis needs help. And there it was. My independence, the thing that built my entire life, was still being used against me. Meanwhile, Travis's irresponsibility was still getting rewarded. I took a deep breath and typed something I should have said years ago. Mom, I'm done. I'm done being the afterthought. I'm done watching you bail Travis out while acting like I don't exist. Even now, you're still not interested in what I've accomplished. You're just trying to figure out how to use it to fix Travis's mistakes. I didn't hesitate. So no, I'm not helping Travis. And I'm not taking any more calls or texts about him either. I hit send. Then I blocked her number. Right after that, I blocked Travis. And Lauren. Then I powered my phone off completely and set it aside. Toby wandered over and rested his head on my lap. I reached down and scratched behind his ears, feeling lighter than I had in years. Guess it's just you and me now, buddy, I said quietly. Well, us, Paige, and her parents. That's more than enough family if you ask me. I don't need their approval anymore. I don't need their validation. And I'm definitely not setting myself on fire just to keep Travis warm. For the first time in my life. I'm not the afterthought. I'm not the overlooked one. I'm just me, and that's finally enough.